Justin had struggled with digestive issues through his teenage years and well into his adult life with no solutions until he started on an animal-based diet. Not only did it clear up his digestive issues, but he also lost about 45 pounds in 12 weeks. Now he, his wife, and their 3 daughters are all eating a mostly meat diet. Join me as I talk to Justin about how he's coaching others on the benefits and implementation of an animal-based diet on this week's episode of Hunger Hunt Feast. Thanks for joining me today for another episode of Hunger Hunt Feast. With me is instinctual health coach Justin Bradley. Justin, thanks for joining me.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've seen each other. We met in Costa Rica.
Yes.
At Paul Saladino's kind of gathering, that is instant gathering. You and Michelle both. That was fun.
Yep. Absolutely. So, not to blow smoke, but you were one of our favorite people.
Well, you guys as well. I really appreciate it. I mean, you know, that was it's hard when you get there to start to figure out who your people are to link up with, and I got to. You guys were kind enough to cart my ass around that country and with like the most outrageous, dangerous driving roads I've ever seen I've ever been in a country. I mean, I've never seen something so hazardous like Frogger meets Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
On every road.
Meets Justin from Instinctual Health.
Well, there you go. And you were awesome at navigating it and knowing when to, take advantage of an opportunity to get through something. But it's like, yeah, it's scary to walk. It's scary to drive. It's just,
absolutely.
It was frightening. But so no, I appreciate you guys taking the wheel literally on that, and we had a good time. Are you guys going back? Going back in March?
We are. Yeah. And actually we're going to bring all 3 of our daughters. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It'll be interesting because I'll be more involved than Michelle, but just because we'll have the kids.
Yeah.
There's certain things that are going on that they don't need to jump off a 70-foot waterfall. Little much for them. So.
Yeah. A little much for me, I'll be honest. But yes, I agree.
So yeah, we'll be back there in a month and a half. So.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. That'd be great. It'd be great. It's great fun. Well, so you guys have a great story. I want to get into that. I want to start off with that because you guys really, you're coaching now, but you really started from a point of need and changing your life and transforming the way your family eats and lives. I mean, tell us a little bit about your backstory, your health journey that you and Michelle went through.
So, I mean, as long as I can remember starting out, I always had digestive issues, but I was an athlete. I was slim, never really thought about it. It's just, you hear from doctors, it is what it is. You don't really even think about diet. Should I change my diet? I'm 20 years old. What do I need to do, doctor? Nothing. They didn't even give me anything. They weren't prescribing anything, but it's just common. It's most likely stress, things like that. And then I met my wife, weird insight on that. Our first date, we went out to dinner. We ran back to my house and fought for the bathroom. So that's when I kind of realized that we kind of were both in the same boat there. We were never officially diagnosed with anything. It kind of came down to mostly what we were eating. It's the grains, just things that most humans don't adapt to and shouldn't adapt to. We always ate animals. I think that's a lot of why I became healthy quicker. Once I started to understand health was because we never left animal products out of our diets since we were young. We would eat lean meats. I remember my parents cooking dry chicken breasts. That was no matter what, we always had real butter for the most part. Margarine was thrown in. We were definitely using the seed oils, which we'll get to that obviously.
Yeah.
But from there we didn't do anything about our health. We went to work, we did our thing. I started to research kids' nutrition. We have 3 daughters. One of them wasn't born yet. And I just had the thought. I've always been very curious. So I started to look at podcasts. I always knew the name paleo. I was big into CrossFit at the time. Paleo was all over the place. Yeah. So I found a podcast. It was Perfect Paleo Podcast. And I'll give a shout out to Justin Nolt. He actually was out of Nashville for a long time. Oh. He always told himself he's a musician who had to teach people about health because he had nowhere else to go. So from that, it started with kids nutrition. Then I quickly realized there is no difference between kids and adults for the most part. There are no, there's a
Right.
few dietary things you could add in or remove, but there is no kids menu, nothing like that. Once we did that and I fully dove in, I lost 40 pounds in probably less than 45 days. Didn't even realize I had to lose it. So it just went from a thicker face to, what I am today. I still do very minimal, low impact workouts. I'm not as buff as you. It's
okay. Well,
but that's something actually we're progressing into now. I'm going to do a little body transformation for social media, just
cool.
to bulk up a little bit. But then again, my wife, she was getting pregnant at the time, and again, not overweight. But now that we look back at pictures, we can see a vast difference from us now to then. She lost 50 pounds, during her pregnancy. The pregnancy went smoother than the other two. The others were a little early.
She lost 50 during her pregnancy?
50 from when she started her pregnancy last time. So she started out 50 pounds lighter just to start the pregnancy.
Oh, cool. Okay, gotcha. Wow.
So and again, it wasn't like, oh, my wife really needs to lose some weight. And
right.
So that's where we kind of brought in all of a sudden our digestive issues started to go away. Mine were immediate. Michelle's, she started to talk to Dr. Paul Saladino, kind of get some ideas of what else could be the issues. We did all sorts of parasite testing. She had things like Giardia. And again, she went through gastroenterologists here forever, nonstop. Every year it was, endoscopies or endoscopies, things like that, to no avail. So Saladino really helped with that. And then it came back to the nutrition. It came back to the leaky gut, came back to just healing that leaky gut so that the nutrients you're taking in are resolved. And then from there, our kids never even batted an eye. We're just giving them more meat than we would have. Things like school lunches, they go with cold steak. Just understanding how bacteria grows on meats, leftovers, things like that. We weren't worried about bringing in warmer meats going, once they're cooked, going to school. So it was very interesting. They're definitely one of the only kids at the school that are eating that way.
I'm sure.
But there again, and then it just started to lead me into, in 4 years, read hundreds of books, which is kind of was a goal of mine, but also thousands of hours of just podcasts, including yours, Zane.
Thank you.
And it's one of those things where if somebody tells me something, I always continue to learn more. It would just stick in my head. Even if it wasn't even pertinent to something I was doing on a daily basis, I would just continue to learn. So that's when it got in and I finally realized we need to help other people. I was not one. I was an all-American guy. Sugar didn't matter. Stop with your issues.
Right.
What it is. Gluten-free. Oh, that stuff's a joke. Just stuff that you hear. It's like you could watch a TV show in the morning and, oh, it's all a myth. Oh, okay. So that's how I understood it also. But once everything started to line up, it didn't end from there. So now we started a health coaching company, really just in the last 2 years, but over the last 6 months is where we really started to put it on social media. We're not very social media savvy people or wanted to even be on social media. But after our gathering in Costa Rica, we realized this is what everybody's doing. It's going to have the biggest impact for people and for our family. So it's, and from there, that was our simple story. Our kids are extremely healthy. We go to the dentist minimally. We understand our bodies. Biggest thing for me is I start to break out in a little spot because I ate something I shouldn't have. It might've been a softer cheese that wasn't grass-fed, just certain proteins I can tell are not agreeing with me. But other than that, we stick to a very strict diet, but also consists of hundreds of foods and hundreds of meals. We never feel restrictive or restricted.
Gotcha.
So that's the simple story.
Let's
quickly. We did it ourselves.
That's amazing. I mean, and you got it. The kids eating that way too, so the whole family's sort of on board, and they can avoid a lot of those issues. But some people would say it's hard to. How do you get your kids to eat this way? I'm sure you hear that question like weekly.
And just as it's no different getting an adult to eat that way. So
it's actually harder if you really think.
And so once we realized that, Kids don't go to the grocery store and buy any of their food.
Right.
So we don't shame people into saying, oh, the parents are the ones doing this to their child, but they are, but they also don't know why they are. Goldfish is just a staple. My first kids, they eat goldfish. They wake up and eat goldfish, but they also never had problems eating food in general. They weren't eating waffles for dinner because they didn't want meat. They always ate meat. So that was a little easier on us. And
Gotcha.
we threw everything out. We didn't have that special occasion stuff.
Right. You didn't have a pantry full of junk that you really didn't need in the house. Yeah.
Special occasion stuff is we're going to go celebrate with somebody and we're going to enjoy that moment. My kids, they go to a birthday party, they eat a cupcake. We don't care. What they're eating every single day is so solid that they're not restricted. My 9-year-old will eat a half a cupcake and we watch her in the corner and then she throws the rest out. So she
hit her bliss point early. She hit her sweet, like, okay, I'm done. That's enough.
Yes. Yeah. So like I said, food is very emotional, which is kind of part of the aspect that we take to all this is everybody does emotional eating. I read a few books on emotional eating and thought, this is stupid. Then I realized, wow, I actually do the same thing. I think of it as emotions of just being sad, but it's stress. It's everything. I don't binge eat, but there's times to be like, I need to go grab an ice cream while everybody's gone because it was like my time, but it's emotional eating.
Right.
So
let's for everybody to understand, what does your diet look like? Like, what is it? You say, cause you said you ate hundreds of foods, different meals. What, generally speaking, what does that look like for you guys? What are the parameters for the food that comes into your house?
Meat. So, I would say we're 95% meat.
Gotcha.
A lot of our energy is just coming from animal products, fat, things like that. But in general, we eat any kind of meat. A lot of salmon, all beef. We take different organ supplements. We haven't introduced the kids into just eating, raw organs. We haven't taken that step, but they understand where their food comes from. They know farms, they know butchering. But gotcha. Again, what we try to do is low inflammatory foods.
Gotcha.
So there's generally not a single food we eat that's anti-inflammatory because we just eat low inflammatory or non-inflammatory foods, period. Whatever, we don't try to substitute things. We don't try to substitute pastas for gluten-free pastas. There's just none of that.
Gotcha.
We get as far as trying to eliminate even lectins that are in tomatoes and tomato sauce. So we don't buy any brands of tomato sauce unless we know who made it. If they de-seeded it, de-skinned it, things like that.
Gotcha.
But again, in general, it's a lot of, we don't grill a lot. We do a lot with our cast irons and the ovens.
Gotcha.
Not a lot of high heat type stuff, which people always think is strange. How do you eat all these ribeyes or sirloins and you don't grill them? We just don't need to. We learned a lot of other methods to help with that. And that's kind of what we implement with the coaching also. A lot of families have an electric stove and have one pan and they just don't realize a few other things. Spending a little bit of money makes it all easier. Clean up, cooking.
Yeah.
And that's how we do change it up. But we do eat a lot of seafood. There's almost no seafood that we won't eat.
Okay.
And we're at the stage now, unless you're a client, we don't even think about what we eat. We don't try to say Monday is this, Tuesday is this. We just keep going through the fridge, a lot of leftovers from things that we did the night before or 2 days before. The only food we have in the house is stuff we can always eat. So we never even think about it.
Gotcha. So you have some fruit, it sounds like, some level of fruit. Okay.
And as weird as it sounds, we did blueberries, raspberries, blackberries. The girls did. I was never really into it anyway. My wife didn't even eat it. But then after a few people started change and doing bananas and honey, it was an interesting thought to us. My wife being a woman made us, I understand the differences in men and women as far as hormones and menstrual cycles and things like that. So we started to do some carbs here and there. But we still limit it where it's not, breakfast isn't just fruit. The girls have eggs or bacon or eggs and steak. And then at school, they have some blueberries that are in their lunch. They may have a banana every couple of days that's in their lunch. So yes, we introduced it, but their gut bacteria isn't hooked on it. if that makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah. Not
They're
hooks on the
not craving it.
fructose. Yeah. Right. Wow. Okay. So it's a minimal amount of plant and then not much condiment wise, I'm guessing. I'm hearing.
Yeah. And condiments, we get our people that we coach off of them completely and then reintroduce them when it's things like Primal Kitchen.
Gotcha.
Who now has sold the craft, so we don't know what will happen with that.
Oh, I didn't hear that. Wow.
Yes, their new mayonnaise is now in plastic again instead of the glass jars.
Ah, gotcha.
So, but again, there was a reason Mark Sisson did it. He's helping other people right now, with what he does. But as an example, it's all avocado based. There's 4 ingredients. So we started to introduce those again. But there's days where my kids will say, "Oh no, I want ketchup on this." Well, that's when we stop ketchup for a week, because now all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, we want that again. We had it at a restaurant, so we want this." Once it gets in their head that they start habitually needing
a certain thing,
condiment just to eat, it's got to go.
Gotcha.
But other than that, I might come home tired for the day and we just cook 3 ribeyes. The 5 of us eat them. We drink water with electrolytes and we go watch TV and go to sleep. Like, it can be that simple.
Gotcha.
We don't think about the side dishes or adding in the foliage for no reason.
Gotcha.
In my opinion, again, no reason.
Right. All right. So no vegetables, obviously. It sounds like very little.
We'll do leafy greens.
Okay. Leafy greens.
Yeah. Asparagus, even cauliflower, broccoli. But again, we don't need those. We don't need those sides all the time. We don't stress about them of, we need 2 more sides. We don't even think about it. We try to be as quick as possible in the kitchen, mindfully eat, but then be done.
Gotcha.
Instead of spending an hour and a half of your evening that you have with the kids after they got out of school, just cooking or cleaning and preparing, we try to keep it as simple as possible.
Gotcha.
So we understand hectic lives. We have 3 kids. So
I've been there.
And I'm not sitting here, a 38-year-old single guy saying everybody can do it. We have 3 kids, careers, and it's a lot. So
it's a lot. No, it's a lot. You think your head's spinning sometimes. I mean, you just got so many different places going on. That you have to get them here, get them there. No, it's great because you can actually say, when you're talking to families, because I'm sure that's a lot of your client base is families.
Yes.
We can do it. This is what we did. This is how our kids responded. You can do this too. You're a walking billboard for what you're asking people to do, which speaks volumes to people and sets an example. So what do you think? Did you have any? It doesn't sound like you really had any hiccups. What do you remember? Any difficult changes to this diet or kind of hurdles you had to get through? Or was it more like we're going to do it and we just jump in and go 100%?
Yeah, I mean, we went 100% only because I learned a lot quickly and then I didn't stop learning. So every week it would just be not the newest thing. And on a side note, that's some of our issue with social media is, my wife would say, "I'm not sleeping well. This guy said magnesium." There's a list of things that magnesium can help. So So when we do our programming also, we try to get people to stay away from social media for a certain amount of days so that they don't think that what we were just telling them can be solved again because of just electrolytes or because of just this. Like, all of that stuff is beneficial, but it's still not a cure-all. You up your magnesium, but you don't do it enough and you're drinking too much water and it's all gone. It's just like, there's so many variables that we try to keep all the social media influencers out of it a little bit.
Gotcha.
Which is, a lot of it I learned from these certain people, but not by looking at memes on social media.
Yeah, the memes that just sum up to grab attention. It's like they're not really, there's no depth to the information. It's just kind of like it's meant for a click or get you to stop scrolling. It's not meant to really inform you. Exactly. So, and nutrition just cannot be summed up as it can be simple, but when you're talking about solving a problem, there's a little more depth to unpacking what someone thinks they know and reestablishing new knowledge. And that's really what you guys are having to do because of it's so contrary to the current, if you want to call understanding narrative around nutrition. People are going to think you're missing out on something, right? You're missing out on nutrients. You're missing out on the benefits of all these fruits and vegetables. What do you tell people when they say that to you? How do you explain that? How do you unpack that for people to understand?
I explain it as a library. You know, every town, city has public libraries. All the information you need of history and life and anything you could imagine that's at a library is there. Except even if you read every single book, there's no way to unpack it. So we unpack nutrition simply just depending on what their lifestyle is like. If it is a single 20-year-old who's an athlete, their cells are exactly the same as yours and mine. So are their organs, except their lifestyle is different. So
Right.
we try to adapt it. You know, everybody always mocks, oh, it's a lifestyle. Well, it really is, because our lifestyle today is in America is horrendous. That's that alone, besides nutrition, it's the sleep, it's the stress, it's so we always tell people it's just like a library. I tell you, here's 10 books to read. Those people are not going to become nutritionists and change their lives. They might change some aspects and they might get an understanding, but without the full background of it, to be able to cut it into short pieces of actual knowledge, things like satiety. You could read all about satiety, but it depends on where you read the information from and what you were doing. If you Google it, I used to tell everybody, just Google it, just Google it. And then you realize once you get into health, you can't Google anything. It's not, that's not a thing.
No, you're not going to find what you're looking for. You're going to get whoever boosted their information the best, whoever's got the closest relationship with Google, basically. So, I mean, as far as finding your nutrients coming mostly from meat, from animal based, so eggs and meat and organs being so nutrient dense. When you get people to eliminate, like start taking a look at processed food and point out to them, I mean, let's go into the biggest poisons there. I mean, the most overlooked, everyone knows about sugar, most overlooked or underestimated impact is probably from seed oils, in my opinion. I think from, as far as that's it. And people don't realize they're there. They don't realize they're actually taking in more soybean oil than they are any other fat if they're eating a standard American diet.
Absolutely. And that's one of the easiest ways for us to get people to stop eating processed foods is we initially tell them, if they're not all about what we're doing yet, one way we catch them is by having them look at every ingredient of anything they buy, make sure there's no seed oils in it. Once they start doing that, they start buying whole foods. Because there's manufacturers now similar to Primal Kitchen who are starting to put in avocado oil, olive oil, things like that so you can have different foods, but it doesn't necessarily mean we need processed foods that just have avocado oil in them. But when we start telling somebody, just look at the back, make sure there's no seed oils in it, they start to get the idea of like, wow, this entire store is not what I need. They need to be on the outskirts,
everything in the middle aisles has some form of those oils and either with processed grains, sugar, or both packed into a bag, bottle, or box of some form. It's just.
And with the family coaching, you try to go with the flow. None of this is just being hard ass. Oh, why did you do this? Why did you do that? One of our biggest things is, and it was hard for my wife to understand because I did most of the initial reading and learning and continue to do it, but that people don't necessarily need to just throw everything out in their house. They need to learn about seed oils, listening to Dr. Kate Shanahan and finding out, oh, wow, that's actually killing people, and it's tough when it's coming from a health coach because you've always heard health coaches. There's Beachbody coaches. There's Weight Watchers coaches. Those are all great programs for certain people for certain amounts of time, but it doesn't teach a family to do anything. So the woman could lose 80 pounds, looks amazing, a family's deteriorating, and she doesn't know what to do for them because there's no point system on the back of a package. And not even going against them. Those are great programs. They've come a long way as far as continuing with people through their lives, but we teach a man to fish. That's the old saying, teach a man to fish. That's it. So we generally teach the woman to fish and then she's teaching her whole family, And when she goes home and says to her husband or wife, hey, we're changing our diet. We're not going on a diet. We're changing it. And it's mostly meat. Very few people complain.
Not too many guys are going to complain. It's Yeah. Yeah. Guys like single ingredient food. Usually, I mean, if you try to tell a guy no pizza, no cheeseburgers, no French fries, he might go, but you say, but you're going to eat steak. We're going to have a roast. We're going to have, you know,
all the foods you only eat on holidays or your birthday.
Right? Lamb, lamb chop. Hey, yeah, exactly. I mean, celebratory type, the feasting foods.
Without the hunch necessarily, but
yeah, not the alcohol, but they'll get it. They're like, okay, I can, if you're taking away their favorite foods and you're giving them, a salad and some kind of low fat option with, it's like you kind of go, no wonder they're grumpy. But if you put a steak on his plate, you're like, I can live with this. Yeah, and then they start, and then they start feeling better. Yeah. I mean, the bloating goes down. They're suddenly losing weight. Like with you just change your diet and you drop 40 pounds.
Yeah.
And eating meat. I mean, how hard can it be? And then, and then you back it up with the education from MDs like Kate Shanahan, Paul Saladino. I mean, there's a number of them that can reinforce what you're saying from a medical standpoint and explain it really well.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a nice community here that can reinforce, and you basically people find who they gravitate to, like you're coaching, and they identify with you guys as a family with kids. And it's like, well, you're my guy. Not that the information is much different, but they identify with you. They identify with a family setting. They identify with the way you deliver it. But you've got the backup of some great MDs who are really telling the truth and have done their homework.
Yeah.
That's
MDs who are willing to change their stance when they learn something new.
That's true. That's and they take heat for it. It's funny how they
science.
Yeah. And learning, you just be able to not be romantic about your ideas, but really allow yourself to have been wrong and to get better and more informed. They take heat for it. It's amazing to me how much heat these docs get when they say, you know what, I overlooked this, or I've in my personal experience showed me I need this, more of this item, and people jump all over them like it's like they've just told them ruin their belief system. Yeah. And it's like when you're looking at your nutrition like a belief system rather than science and something that should be ever evolving through a greater understanding of truth. Truth hasn't changed, but the greater understanding of the truth of what's good for us. I mean, you have to allow that to happen, or you're going to be stuck wherever, even whether that point is, better or worse than the standard American diet, you're still going to be stuck.
And I think the last 2 years have shown us that everything can go in crazy directions, and people get very tied to one thing. They don't want to break off of it, but.
Oh yeah. We have to be able to reassess and look at is this working or not?
Yeah.
Reassess. So that's great to be fluid with, like you said, and understanding that we're all built the same with the same cells, same hormones, but our lifestyles are a little bit different. So there's some adjustment there, but for the most part, our nutrition, our nutrients, the best nutrients, most bioavailable nutrients come from these animal-based sources we've been using since humans have been eating. And so
and the concept of eating your own muscle meat would all of a sudden cause cancer. You're eating muscle meat,
red meat
from animals and saturated fats, and just to think that that's a cause of anything is that's when you should understand. Just like the last 2 years, it should just be switch flips, and you're just like, something's got to be different.
Yeah. Inflammation. I mean, the push for plant-based diets, if you're eating whole food, good luck keeping up with your energy needs, your nutrient needs, and that's why many of them end up eating the processed foods, which are so bad because they're starving. So it really doesn't take anyone forward, or you do see them emaciated and maybe bloated, but you don't see a lot of really robust, healthy people who have been a vegan or vegetarian for 5 years or more. Because usually things start to break down after a couple of years, if not sooner. And like you said, it's eating what we are. it's like we are mostly saturated and monosaturated fat. We have very little polyunsaturated fat in this.
Yeah.
We are meat. We are bone. So it's really, it makes sense that most of our tissue is going to be turning over, and we're going to need to replace that with like materials.
Not manufactured materials. It's
not manufactured materials.
It seems so easy, but
not various, completely different, genus of food, plant versus animal. We're very, it should be very simple and obvious. So you guys are primarily online coaching. So you're not meeting people one-to-one much, unless you know someone in your local area, but you pretty much offer this service all over, the US.
And the way we do it is similar to what we're doing now. You have if it's recorded as a Zoom, we have them set up a certain amount of questions before we meet, so that, if they don't even have questions, it could be things that wowed them in certain podcasts that we sent, or a book that we sent them a month ago. Just things that blew their mind or they had questions about. Gives us a little time to prepare. So each of our sessions is very concentrated on what they were thinking about. Gotcha. When I meet somebody and they ask me what we do, next thing you know, an hour later, they're even more confused than when they started, because I just start going on. So when we do it coaching wise, we try to concentrate on very small things. And one of the biggest things we do is we do send out other people's podcasts in weekly emails, because none of these people are going to read or going to listen to 100 of Paul Saladino's podcasts and then say, I got it now. Right. You really can't unpack it without everything that's behind it. So they don't continue to listen to other ones. We give them one from you, and then one from Paul Saladino, and then one from Brian Sanders, just about whatever they're doing that week. It could be satiety. They could have all had the same guest on that week, but the presentation came out different. You're different than Paul. Everybody's podcasts are a little bit different. They get a little more in depth than others. So we try to keep it simple, but really concentrate on things. Satiety is the first one. Just the understanding that really my kids wake up, they don't even really think of breakfast. It's just, let's eat, because at school that they're eating a little bit less. And then they come home and we eat another big dinner. So
kids aren't hung up on they're not hung up on a
schedule.
The snack schedule, and hung up on this routine of this. Been taught to us, and so many adults that I've run into, it's like they really feel like even if they don't want to, they're not hungry in the morning. They're supposed to eat breakfast, or a big breakfast, or they're supposed to eat 5 times that day, a meal, a snack, a meal, a snack, a meal, and they don't even want it. They don't feel ready for it, but they think that that's what they're supposed to do. Exactly. And you change the paradigm on them. Kids kind of have more of a blank slate if you start early enough, to where they're not hung up on this, these ideas, these preconceived, or these ideas of just like, I'm supposed to do this, or this is how it, and they can really go with how they feel. If they're not hungry, they don't eat much. They're not eating because they think they're supposed to. They're eating because, especially, and if you have satiety in the food not stimulating more hunger, then they just eat what they need.
And that's kind of how we created the name Instinctual Health. It blew my mind that I could not find anybody who was using Instinctual Health, because, people will say, well, I just listen to my body. You can't listen to your body when your body is in metabolic dysfunction. You're listening to your body. You're listening to bacteria and parasites that are smarter than we are. They're viruses that adapt, and they control the brain. So once we understood that, it was, we're the only animals on the planet that don't know what to eat.
Sure. And we created an education platform around to justify eating really bad food.
Yes. And with that, we're also the only animal that can plan ahead. Only because the other animals that get ready for winter or get ready for summer, they're only doing that instinctually. They may fatten up for winter because instinctually they know, we're coming into a hard time. Well, by February, I'll lose 15% of my body weight. By February, I'll only have half of my nut stores left. That's not a thing. It's all instinctual. So again, we try to bring people back to their instinctual selves. And depending on the coaching, we take it as far as finances, their everyday life, dead end jobs. We don't say you could be making more, but maybe after some time you're seeing a new light come out in somebody, and they shouldn't be working where they are. They shouldn't be a cog in the wheel. They're more, as we are, entrepreneurs or self-employed, or there's other avenues for them to make money. There's a lot of health coaching spots out there too. People like Mark Sisson, and then what's his name? A couple other people. They do things like MeatRx.
Yeah, Sean Baker.
Those are great little cash flow things for people to keep putting the information out there. But for what we do, we're definitely much more concentrated. We're not $10 a month. Send me an email. We change your whole family. So very in depth.
And you need to, because if you're just changing one, nobody else is on the same plan, then you have vulnerabilities there, don't you? If you don't change, and who wouldn't want to, once they realize it, they want their kids to change. They want their spouse to be healthier, so that they're on the same page and do things together, and they can engage with each other and not have those little landmines, those temptations, when you're trying to make a change, it's difficult. Absolutely. And it's really, you want to have everything on board. Like what you guys did, we just cleaned out the pantry, got rid of the things that don't need to be there, so they're no longer a plan B. Yes. For when you don't feel like it, or when something goes off, or you just have an emotional moment. You don't have that. It's like, okay, well, we eliminated excuses. Basically, you suffocate the excuses by putting in what your needs are and then moving on. Can you share some success stories with us, some of your clients? So,
everybody loses weight. It's one of those things. Most people don't come to us because they just have an issue. We don't play to be doctors. We don't tell people. We'll give them the best medical advice. We give them the information for them to be informed, more informed consent, you could say, for when they do go to their doctor, they can make better decisions.
Gotcha.
So in general, athletes, there's a local guy in town. He started the program, and I knew it was going to be difficult because he wanted to work out. He's 80 pounds overweight, but I need to work out. So a lot of our programming starts with the change of diet, a lot of learning, and no exercise for 60 days, only because it shows people, wow, diet made me do this. Everybody needs movement, but people don't need to get it in their heads that they need to go to the gym to lose weight. Right. So when people go to the gym and they lose weight on our program, they can't say for sure that, instinctual health program is what did it. I also went to the gym. So, it's one of those things where you try to get that out of their heads, that the gym is not necessary for you to start using fat as energy. Right. But then after that, start with low impact movements, start doing things. We're definitely hard on people when it comes to, I run every day. I do this, I tell them humans weren't meant to run 26 miles for no reason. Humans weren't meant, there's just certain things. You start to get, very skinny marathoners versus something that I do. I just started doing trail running, setting up for ultras in the future, 50 miles and more. Oh, wow. But I'll have a ton of muscle mass. It's a completely different thing than running on a road for 26.2 miles. For sure. Running in the woods, the concentration. And that was something I was going to bring up from the holistic dentist you brought on, is I run 8 miles only and breathe only through my nose. Awesome. So, after most people, as soon as they start running, the mouth opens up. They think they're getting a larger concentration of oxygen going back in. But in that program, when you were interviewing, we were talking about the nitric oxide. Yeah. How the whole thing works there. Next thing you know, you're sharper, and you're running through the woods. I took a spill the other day that I could have laid there for an hour. But so those things are there, but by breathing through your nose and using the nitric oxide, you're sharper mentally for what you're doing in the woods. Let alone you're getting, your cells are expanding, you're taking in more oxygen. It's just very counterintuitive when you're trying to keep your tongue to the roof of your mouth and keep your mouth closed, but also take a big breath of air. Yeah. No, it is. It is. But you get much more of that pressure, as we talked about. The Oxygen Advantage really teaches that. It's a great book. The pressure that's built to push that oxygen into the tissues from the
I mean, it's a chemical, and it reduces stress hormones. So you're not going to hyperventilate or overuse energy by stimulating unnecessary stress through your autonomic nervous system by mouth breathing. When you can breathe through your nose, you're calmer. You're in a calmer state. You get better pressure in your tissues for the oxygen going and better usage. But yeah, the nitric oxide is huge for vasodilation. Yeah, I understand what you're saying with the exercise too. That's a skill when it's done right.
Yes.
But when you start off and you need to lose weight and your eating is off base and your hormones are out of whack, basically metabolic hormones, you have metabolic dysfunction, you start exercising, the main byproduct of exercise for everybody, say across the board, is they're hungrier. It makes you hungry. And if your eating is already off base and your hormones are already jacked up, you're going to be hungry for more of the wrong kind of food. I always emphasize, get your diet, unless you're already doing something that you're used to, don't change that. Don't increase it just because you're trying to lose weight. Get your diet in place first, at least 4 to 6 weeks, at least. 2 months is great. 60 days is a great way to do it because it does gives them time to have those results. And they realize that the real lever for weight loss is diet. It's diet. And exercise is supplemental, but it's diet. It's 80-90% of the work is by what you put in your mouth and how your body responds to it, the hormone balance that comes from that, like you said, the change in biome, the change in the bacteria that are living in your body that trigger from your gut, that are triggering your vagus nerve and just the healing leaky gut, which most people are dealing probably with to some degree if they're eating processed food. In other words, there's a host of issues that can be cleared up just with diet, just by cleaning up the diet.
100%.
And you don't attribute that to exercise.
And that's the point of it, is just so that in a year from now, you're not saying, oh, I did work out also. The women that get up, and I say this as women who are going to get married in 2 months, they need to lose 30 pounds. They're up at 4 a.m. to go to the gym. If that is not something you want to do, please do not do that. Please do not go to the gym at 4 a.m. and you hate the gym. That is the most stressful part of, you get 6 hours of sleep, you get up at 4:30 in the morning, go to the gym, and then go to work. What?
And they hate it. They're doing it. They're going, the thing is, the emphasis is all out effort for 2 months. It's not a lifestyle change. They're not making it part of their routine. They're not changing the routine to make that sustainable. They're doing something that's unsustainable.
Yeah.
And you really are creating stress. You're right. I mean, it's like, I want to nosedive my body for weight loss to fit in this dress in 2 months. So I'm going to go do everything I can, pull out all the stops for and it's not a sustainable lifestyle. So the stress level created by that, the pace at which you're taking it, and not good.
And then you get the calorie in, calorie out crowd, which is the majority, but it's still before a wedding. You could restrict your calories heavily, cut them in half or even a little bit more, lose weight. And then all of a sudden your whole metabolism slows down so that you survive. Next thing you know, after your honeymoon, after everything, you gain 10 pounds, you gain 30 pounds, your whole body all of a sudden lives completely sedentary and different. And anything else you eat on top of that destroys you. So it's just not sustainable.
You yo-yo. You literally yo-yo. Yeah, that's the yo-yo diasporic interest. Probably was perpetuated for weddings. I mean, weddings, events, graduations, whatever it is, it's like gotta look good for the wedding, and it's with no intent of sustaining the plan or for long-term health. Man, that's awesome. How do people find you? I know you're at instinctual_health on Instagram, and then instinctualhealthforlife.com.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's an ongoing website. It's something, we don't give a ton of information, but you see our story. You kind of get an idea of what we do, that we are animal based. And not saying that we wouldn't work with vegetarians to give them the best life they can do, as long as it's for a reason that they just don't want to eat animal products. We can try to help people understand that may not be the way to go. but we don't create emotional eaters. We try to get that out of everybody's head. So the website is ongoing. We're starting to professionally have it done where anybody I send a link to opens it up and it feels more inviting. But instinctualhealthforlife.com is definitely the best way to just reach out to us. I've been starting to blog a little bit. Most of my blogs are more rants. They're more things of why the grocery store could be the size of a convenience store, how we did it with our kids in a hectic life. None of this is easy, but we definitely know how to make it as easy as possible for people and their families.
That's key, because when you have a family, like you said, it's crazy, it's busy. You don't know where to start. You just need a simple list, real simple plan, real simple list. How do I put this together? I don't have a lot of time, and I don't have time to think through, figure stuff out, so you can map it out for them. You're on Facebook too? You guys on Facebook?
Yeah, we are on Facebook. It is basically just at Instinctual Health for Life.
Oh, at Instinctual Health for Life. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
And all of our logos and stuff are all the same. So wherever you find us, Instinctual Health isn't that popular on anything. So when you type in Instinctual Health, it comes up. There's
you guys.
For me, I thought it would just be, everybody's got to use this, like ancestral health. I think instinctual health makes more sense than even ancestral. It's just
right.
Right.
So, right. I get it. That's great. Yeah. You found something that hadn't been tapped into, and it really resonates, because you want that. You want it to be instinctual. You don't want to have to, so basically not a whole lot of measuring, not a whole lot of counting.
No,
it's what you put on your plate. Basically, you can eyeball it.
Exactly. And we give people an idea of how much you need to eat, but there's days. And so my next thing that I'm doing with a bulk up program of muscle is that I'm not going to change any of my intake of protein. And it's just going to show people that I can bulk up in 45 days and keep my diet the same.
Wow.
Just because we do eat what I need on a daily basis. We don't restrict anything. There are days where you're not hungry and you try to eat more.
Oh yeah.
Because that can happen with satiety. There was ancestrally, we probably went days and days without eating. Even the kids did. So it's kind of one of,
For sure.
We try.
No, I have those days. I have those days myself, and I do plenty of fasting. But there's days where I'm just like, I don't feel like eating. I can go till 4 o'clock before I touch anything on a Saturday, because I'm just relaxed. I'm chilling out. I'm doing something, going to kids' games, doing something kind of a relaxed pace. And it's just like, I'm not going to eat because I think I'm supposed to. I just want to.
Exactly.
I've been doing that all week. It's kind of like, okay, how about I just wait till I'm hungry and really enjoy what I put in my mouth, knowing it's going to give me what I want. But it is part of satiety. But when you're trying to lose weight and change your body and get your hormones back in line, your metabolic hormones, that's a benefit. That's a huge benefit. Something most people don't feel, because they're hungry every 2 or 3 hours.
Exactly.
They're like, they think they got to put something in their mouth every 2 or 3 hours to stabilize blood sugar. I've had PhDs with 30 years experience in health and fitness, PhDs in epidemiology, degrees in exercise science, say they have to eat to stabilize their blood sugar. I'm like, well, what the hell is their liver for? Isn't that what the liver does? Doesn't the liver stabilize your blood sugar for? Biochemistry? No.
Exactly. No, biochemistry is what it is. That's why we always, you hear like everybody's different. No, everybody's exactly the same, but we live different lifestyles. That's it.
Right. That's a great way. I've never heard it said that way, but that's exactly dead on. That's dead on. And so awesome.
Yeah.
Justin, I look forward to seeing you and Michelle again in Costa Rica in a couple
Absolutely.
month and a half.
5 days.
Oh my gosh. Can you believe it? It's like back then it seemed like so far away. Like, no, I want to come back.
We were just in Florida for 2 weeks. So then I got to leave again.
Oh man. Well, you're bringing the kids. So God bless you. It's just, I'm solo again because my wife's in nursing school and son there. But I mean,
that's the dream, Zane.
Yeah, it's not so bad. I hadn't traveled by myself in a long time. We got the last of 4. You're right. I had 3 altogether, like you guys, really close. And we got a little caboose come along, was 9. And so we're going to be on the sidelines for a while, traveling with him for a bit. But it's kind of nice to go and just be me, like make decisions and turn.
Yeah.
But you guys need anything when we're there, feel free to let me know.
Need a babysitter, Zane.
Well, I'm going to be helping like you're checking people in and make sure everybody's up. But so no, I'm not babysitting. I do that at home. Other than that.
Yeah. All right. Appreciate it.
Gotcha. All right, Justin. Have a great week.
I appreciate it. Thanks for all you do. So.
Absolutely.